see you. Thank you again for joining one of our LinkedIn lockdown sessions. It's not LinkedIn, it's all, is it? It's a lockdown session. I'm delighted that Joel's managed to hook me up with this fantastic lady. So again, part of this series of meeting and talking to exceptional people who have done exceptional things. This is a great way to wrap up the whole series. Everybody's now back at work in some way, shape or form. So me disturbing you twice a week at 12 o'clock is probably not an ideal time. So without further ado, we're going to do the same format again. Sarah's going to talk for about half an hour, and then we'll give you an opportunity to come off of mute and ask any questions you've got. And I bet you will have thousands. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah Donohue. Powerboat champion, journalist, author, TV presenter, world fitness champion, very much like myself, stunt woman, motivational speaker, chased a drug runner around the streets of Gibraltar with the military. She's dined with sea lords. She's test-driven race boats for a shake in Dubai. Passionate, fearless, determined, and glamorous, all the way from Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Sarah Donohue. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi guys, hi, hope you're all well and you have been enjoying lockdown. So I'm sure some of you have learnt Japanese during lockdown and used your time well, or you've just been sitting in the jacuzzi, or maybe you haven't even moved from Netflix. Either way, it doesn't matter because it was lockdown. It was up to you what you did with it. So lockdown, I think for some people has been fab, for some people not as good, but as long as you use that time how you wanted to use it, then it doesn't matter. And we're all getting back to normal now as well, aren't we? So it's that whole process now of trying to switch your head back on and get back into that work mode, and you know, get out of your house and do your shopping and just get out there. So I know the pandemic has been awful. For some it's been awful. Some people haven't really bothered that much about it. But do remember, just keep safe as best you can. But don't hide indoors at all. If there's anyone there hiding indoors and you don't want to go out, just do go out. The chances of getting it are very, very slim. They're becoming less, but just take that step and get out and get back to normality. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about myself, because Gary's already said how much I've done anyway. And it's all a bit crazy, especially the drug running and things like that. But I started off. Has someone got music on? Oh, can I hear a bit of feedback? Thank you. Oh, it's all right. I was just getting some bounce back then. So, how it all started, I've always had to be very motivated and resilient since I was a child. So I was brought up with 6 boys, and as you can imagine, especially those women there that have got brothers, when you're brought up with 6 boys on the edge of the Yorkshire moors and in a tiny village, you fight for everything. So nothing's ever easy. Everything's a competition. So as a girl, you have to fit right in, and you have to be bold, be strong, be the first to do everything. And you have to really push your boundaries. And as I say, if you get knocked back, which you always do when you're young and you're with boys, then you have to get up and be strong and push yourself even more. So I've always been very resilient. And being this way has taught me a lot in life. And what it's meant is that because I've had to be resilient and because I've had to be motivated, I've managed to carry that through. So motivation it's the key to success. You know, it's about wanting to do something and pushing boundaries. And it's really important to do that all the time. So when I was younger, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to university, I did dress design, fashion and textiles, but I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then during that time, I actually got picked up by a model agency. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was a lot younger then. And then while I was in London, I then moved over to London. And one of the reasons I moved to London is I wanted to also get my equity card, because an equity card would allow me then to become a stunt woman. And I was kind of thinking, do I want to do stunts? So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll move to London. I'm modelling in London. And also I can do the qualifications necessary whilst I'm in London to be able to get on the stunt register. So whilst I was doing all this, I also started working in a bar because I was spotted in a bar, and they offered me a very good job, just 3 hours for 3 nights a week for a lot of money, and it was promotional work. And I thought, do you know what, the bar's only 200 yards from my house because I lived in central London. So I thought, well, do you know what, I'll do it, it's extra money. So I never miss an opportunity. So it's a bit of extra money. It was cash in hand back then. So great, do you know what, I'm going to do that because it's a few hours out of my time. Now, whilst I was in there, I was promoting a beer. And it was literally on the second night there, a really tall Texan man came in. Little did I know that he was a Texan billionaire. He owned the bar, and his family also owned Fortnum & Mason, Selfridges, Primark, part of the Weston family. But I didn't know this, so this guy walked in. I said, would you like one of these new beers? Before he actually said no, I'd taken the top off, given it to him, and charged him £2 for the beer. So he looked at me with a big smile and he said, but I don't drink beer. I said, oh, well, you do now, sir. And I gave it to him. And he obviously gave me the money, which was brilliant. And that happened a couple of times during the night with him. It was only after that night that the boss came up to me and said, oh, you met the owner of the bar earlier. I said, the owner of the bar? I said, I don't remember him. He said, the one in the big section. He said, in fact, he liked you so much, he wants you to join his team in powerboat racing. So we're going to take you from the bar. You'll still be doing promotion work, but you'll be doing it for his powerboat team. Would you be willing to do that? So I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, we're still paying you. You're still going to be doing that, but we're just going to do something different with you. So again, I could have said no, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. So my first job was the weekend after at Lake Windermere. So they took me up to Lake Windermere, and I was doing promotional work for a speed record. So you all know about the speed records at Lake Windermere and Coniston and places like that. So we were doing a speed record. So I was helping him promote it. And as I'd got to know him and speak to him a lot, he knew that I wanted to be a stunt woman. So he said, well, I presume that you're quite feisty. He said, if I offered you the chance to drive a powerboat, would you? Now, remember, at this time, the only boat I had ever seen, right, apart from a rowing boat, was Brittany Ferries on the family holiday. That was it, Brittany Ferries. I'd never seen one of these race boats before, but I said, yeah, I would love to. So the next time I saw him, which could have been a month later, I went down to Southampton to do some more promotional work. As I went in the big garage where all the boats are kept, hangars, he opened a door, and in front of me was this bright yellow boat. It was this bright yellow boat. And he said to me, oh, this is your boat. So I couldn't even say thank you. I was so shocked. So I've got this beautiful boat, and he said, all you need to do is name her. And I was still shocked. So I still hadn't said thank you. And he said to me, are you actually going to speak? And I said, well, I don't know what to say. So I now had this boat, and I was part of a race team. So the next thing was learning to drive it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been out in boats, and when you get the big boats, I don't know, the Sunseekers or the Fairline, they're quite easy to drive. There's nothing really difficult about them. Once you start getting race boats, they're a lot more complex. They have lifters, which makes the engine go up and down, and they have bow tanks, which weights the front. It's always to get the best balance for the sea conditions that you're in. So there's a lot of things in a race boat. And they had someone in to teach me. And you know what? That was the scariest thing I'd done at that point in my life. It was really nerve-wracking, because this is a tiny boat. I'm in it. I'm going at speed. I won't kid you. It was the most uncomfortable thing. On one of the testing sessions, I actually broke my nose and bruised my ribs. It was that bad. So that was really, really difficult for me. And it took me a long time to be able to get used to the boat. But I thought, I've got to get out there. And even though I'd hurt myself, I thought, you know what, I still want to get out there, and I still want to prove I can do this. So I'd gone out there, and I started racing, and I had an absolutely great time. And that's how I got into racing. I left that team within a year. And the reason I'd left the team is Charles didn't know that the rest of the team, who were all men, so do remember it's an all male environment, the rest of the men weren't actually treating me very nice. And this is going back nearly 30 years ago, and I'm still young, so I didn't really know how to deal with that. I know how to deal with it now, but back then I didn't know how to deal with it. And I thought the best thing I can make, and it was one of the hardest decisions in my life, I'd fallen in love with a sport that gave me so much pleasure, so many new friends and so many opportunities. And I was about to turn around and say to Charles, I'm leaving the team. And that was a really hard decision. And I thought, I've got to do it now because I'm not happy. So I said to him, Charles, I'm leaving your team. He asked me why. I didn't really tell him. And then I was upset, and he said to me, without my money, you won't race again. And he wasn't being arrogant. He was being very honest. He had a lot of money. I didn't. Powerboat racing is a very expensive sport. So it was very difficult. And I think you have to make some decisions and really stick by them, because you don't know what's going to be around the corner. As one door closes, another one opens. And it was only 2 weeks later, I went down to see another powerboat friend in Oxford, and he had 2 boats on his driveway. He had bought a new boat for himself, and his old boat he gave me. He actually gave me his old boat. He said, I've got you a present. It's my boat, which I'm not going to be racing anymore, so I want you to have it. And he said also, no, on top of that, I've got you an engineer, an engine, another racer's going to be paying for you along with me, so we're going to get you on the water. They said, we haven't had a girl on the water for years and years and years, and we might not get another girl for another 10 years. They said, and we don't want to lose you. And that to me was incredible. So I got on the water, I started the national championships with everyone else, and I won the first race of the season. And I was against a fleet of 16 other boats. So all the teams, 2 in a boat. I had another girl in my boat, and I won the opening round. And I even said to the current national champion, did you let me win? And he said, I wouldn't let you win. He said, you're a good driver. So I was really shocked. But had I not have left that team where I was unhappy, I wouldn't have then gone on to then win the first round of the national championships. And everything grew from there. It was only a few years down the line when I had a telephone call. And it was from someone at Eon Productions. And Eon Productions make all the Bond films. And it was a lady called Debbie, and she said, oh, hi, Sarah, my name's Debbie McWilliams, I'm from Eon Productions, we make the Bond films. So, of course, I went, yeah, all right, yeah. And I put the phone down, because I thought it was one of the lads joking, because lads banter. All you guys do it, and you girls, you all banter with your friends. So the phone went again, and no, Sarah, please don't put the phone down. So I put the phone down again. The next time, she said, it really is Eon Productions from the Bond film. Do not put the phone down. So I started listening. And do you know what? Had I have ignored that, it was my gut feeling that it actually was someone from the Bond film. But had I have ignored that call and thought, do you know what? It's one of the lads messing about, I would never have done the Bond film. I would have lost out on the biggest opportunity of my life. So always be aware. Just always be aware, you don't know what's around the corner. And if someone comes to you and you think, no, that can't be true, it might be. So always listen to people, and listen to what they have to say, because you never know what's around the corner. So I went down to Pinewood Studios. I met the producer, I met Debbie McWilliams in casting, Simon Crane, the stunt guy, and they said to me, we really like you, but we'd also like you to audition so we know what your talents are. But leading up to this, I actually had a manager called Suzanne. And Suzanne Martin said to me, she said, well, if you go to Pinewood Studios, she said, you can't go with an accent like that. She said, you can't do that. We need to give you elocution lessons. I said, I can't have elocution lessons. I'm a Yorkshire girl. She said, well, she said, Sarah, she said, you never know what's round the corner. So she was one of these people as well. And she was right. If you think about it, 30 years ago, really strong accents like ours, you didn't hear that much on TV. You didn't really hear it anywhere. Everyone, I mean, I think the first people are Ant and Dec, you know, with those really powerful accents all those years ago. But she wanted me to go to elocution lessons just so if anything cropped up, I would be more normalized, which I find it really weird, because really something that isn't normal about yourself is actually really quite special. So you always have to remember, if you have a little quirk or a strange accent or something funny about yourself, or you think it's funny, it's not, it's actually special, it's interesting, it's fun. So I had elocution lessons, I had about 3. They made no difference whatsoever, and I came right in with my Yorkshire accent, and I still got the film, and it was brilliant. So you can't lose a Yorkshire accent, can you? Come on, you guys, loads of you will know them. So I went on to do the Bond film, and I had an absolutely great time doing that. Now, when you work in something like stunts, it's a team no different than all you guys work in teams. You have a stunt team. And it's really important that when you work on something as big as Bond, your team is so tight and everybody knows what everybody else is doing, because everybody is reliant on you. And there was a lot of shots I had to get, but there was one in particular, I don't know if you'll remember, The World Is Not Enough, the opening scene, where a boat, a big sunseeker plows into a pier and splinters it. And there's people in that pier. So I had to get that shot. There were 5 or 6 camera angles. We had the helicopter in the air. There was 40 stunt people in there. There was production teams all over the Thames. There were over 100 people at that, 150 people, all on huge wages with one set. They built that pier. It was a breakaway pier. So if I didn't get that right, that was hundreds of thousands of pounds. I don't know, it could have been even £1 million that was just going to be flushed down the toilet. So the pressure was on for me to get that. And you've got, it's a multi-million-pound budget, and you've got to do that job well. And it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter if your job's really small or whether it's really big, because if you've got a team, your team, you all have to do your job so you can move on to the next thing, so things grow. And your team are relying on you. You're relying on your team to make sure they have everything in place. And I was really nervous. And the main stunt guy said, Sarah, you've got one chance to get this right. And I just thought, oh, great, no pressure. And before I went out, one of the main stunt guys gave me the best bit of advice. All he said to me was, don't be nervous, smash it. And that was it. And I thought, do you know what? They just want me to smash it, so I will. So what you obviously see was that just that one take, and I did. I obliterated the whole thing, and it was really good, and everyone was so happy, and that was the day's work complete. After that, I rested, it was over, and I was just so happy that it had gone so well, because that could equally have cost Bond a lot of money, a lot of time. I could have injured someone. So you've got to be very careful, but teamwork is key. And, you know, without that last bit of motivation from Gary, which was smash it, I would have been nervous. But after he said that, it was a lot easier for me. But going into Bond was very difficult anyway, because even though I race a boat and it is an extension of my arm, you need to remember that in a racing situation, it's imperative that I don't touch anything. I don't touch another boat. I don't bang into a turn mark. I don't hit someone else on the water. I watch out for divers who shouldn't be in the path anyway. So it's very, very different. So everything that I've been taught is to be safe and calculated, and it's a racing environment. And now I'm being told to hit things and smash things and blow things up. So it did take me out of my comfort zone. And sometimes it's very difficult when you go out of your comfort zone to try and move your head to somewhere else. But you've got to do it, because if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you'll never move forward. So it was a great learning curve for me doing Bond. It really was. It was spectacular. And after I'd finished Bond, I went over to I went over to Italy. So I finished in May and I went over to Italy in September for the European Championships, which I was racing, and I was the only girl. And I had a really funny feeling before a race. I'm sure some of you get that, you know, when you just wake up and something's not right, or you just feel awkward, and it's a gut instinct, and we all have it. And sometimes it's really good to follow your gut instinct. I didn't that day, but I've promised my mum that I always will in the future. So I had a really bad gut instinct. And on the way to the race, to my boat, I actually said to an English lady, one of our team, I said, if anything goes wrong in this race, I said, can you do me a favour? Can you be the one that calls my mum? And she looked at me and she was like, whoa, Sarah, hold on a minute. What do you mean? And I said, listen, I've got to go. I said, I know there's a chain of command. I said, but can you call my mum? And she was really taken aback by this. She was really taken aback. Has someone got their speaker on? So I went out and I still felt really awkward when I got in the boat. I was just very uncomfortable. I'd never been that uncomfortable before. Never been that uncomfortable. And I got in the boat, and then it was the second race. There's 2 races in the European Championship, and it was the second race. And within 20 minutes of race, the boat barrel rolled that I was in. We found out what it was afterwards. It wasn't driver error, throttleman error. It was a mechanical issue. But the boat, it's a catamaran, so it has 2 hulls. So when the catamaran comes in, you've got 2 hulls. One of the hulls had gone into the water, and we barrel rolled over onto the front. Now, as we barrel rolled it over, we rolled at 80 miles an hour, which is the equivalent to 160 on land. The water pushed me in the footwell of the cockpit. The other man was thrown clear. I was pushed into the footwell of the cockpit, and while the boat was upside down, they tried, the first people on the scene are other racers, not so much help, because obviously the first people are going to be the racers, and it's not like a car race where everyone carries on. When it's a boat race, because you have the water to contend with, which is you obviously can drown, then it's mandatory that other races stop. So 2 of the race boats stopped. I now had 5 guys in the water trying to pull me out from beneath the boat. They kept trying, and then it was the last guy, Giuseppe, that went down. He thought, I'm going to give it one more go. Because remember, not only am I stuck in the footwell of the cockpit and I've been forced by water, I've also got a life vest on, which is forcing me to the surface, but it's forcing me up into the boat even further. And it's a big life vest. He pulled me out. They got me on the deck of the boat. I had no pulse, no heartbeat. There was nothing. So I was obviously bleeding from my ears, from my mouth, from my nose. I was cut everywhere. And so no pulse, no heartbeat. Now at this time, the signal had gone out for the helicopter to come in for the air rescue, but the closest people to me are still racers. I was very fortunate. My racer, my racer that saved my life, Giuseppe Bevilacqua, was actually a trained medic. And a lot of powerboat racers are medics or first aiders. A lot of them are. He gave me the chest compressions and resuscitation. And one of the guys actually tried to pull Giuseppe off, and they said, leave her, she's dead. And it's hard knowing that another racer said to someone, leave her, she's dead. And you'll all know, those that are not first aiders, please do your first aid course. But those that are first aiders, you always know as well, you never give up on someone. So you always, you keep going until you can't go any longer, or until a professional comes in. So by the time the air ambulance had come over, I had actually come round. I'd started breathing, my heart had come back. So he essentially saved my life. I was airlifted to hospital. I was dipping in and out of consciousness. I lost my life again, if that's the right way to put it, in the air ambulance. They had to resuscitate me again, and then I was hooked up to a life support machine. So the lady that I had asked to call my mum when everything got back to her that it was me that had crashed, because a lot of people don't know who crashed, because sometimes until you get in, you don't know whose boat it is that's upside down, because it's just the upside down of a boat. And I was the only girl. So for a lot of people, it was horrific, because I'm the only girl in the world that races, and now I've just been airlifted to hospital. So there's a lot of people worrying. So Mary, the lady that I told, had to make that all-important phone call to my mum when she found out what was happening, and the hospital had said, need to get her mum or her parents to the hospital because we don't know if she's going to make it through the night. Now, I still get a bit upset thinking of that now, because I kind of think what my parents went through, and yeah, it does upset me. But they said, you know, she may not make it through the night. That was relayed to my parents. My dad stayed at home with my brothers. My mum flew over and then was by my bedside. So there was a lot of problems. I had titanium plates on my face. I'd fractured my skull. I'd obviously drowned. I'd broken everything. My shoulder, collarbone, my wrist, my bone had come out of my arm. Everything was just didn't work. So it took me a long time to recover. And of course, as I'm lying there, you know, looking like Quasimodo, looking absolutely terrible, because all my nerves and my face had dropped because the nerves had severed. Of course, I've got mum. This is when I came out of intensive care. My mum was telling me that I'm okay. Oh, and you're great, you're going to be fine. The nurses have said, you know, everything's wonderful and brilliant. Of course, mothers always motivate you, don't they? They always say the right thing, but really, I was in a really bad condition. I was in a bad way. So it's one of those things that a lot of people said she'll never race again, but a lot of my good friends had turned around and said, oh, she'll race again. She will definitely race again. And then after I'd recovered fully, and it took me a long time to recover. It took me, let's say, about a year. I didn't get a lot of all my strength back for about a year and a half. I still have problems now, but I didn't get a lot of strength back for about a year and a half. But then the man that saved my life, Giuseppe Bevilacqua, he said to me, he said, Sarah, he said, would you do the honour of racing with me in Italy in the national championships? And that would have been my first race back. And it was really quite incredible, because he's the man that saved my life. He wants me to race with him in Italy, you know, in the country where I lost my life. And it was like, wow. So listen, I kid you not, I was nervous. I was really nervous, but I said with a big smile, I would love to. That's fantastic. Thanks for asking me. Inside, I have never been so terrified. And anyone that tells you that they're not terrified of things, you know, whether it's people getting up on a big platform and speaking, people that are doing movie roles, people that, it doesn't matter what you do, everybody is nervous when you're going to do something like that. And I just remember thinking, oh God, what if it happens again? What if it happens again? So I went over to Italy, and I've got a team there. So I've got a team waiting for me in Italy. They put me in the water, in the boat, and the team said to me, Sarah, are you okay? So yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I've been really looking forward to this. I had not been looking forward to it. I had been absolutely dreading it, right? I had been dreading it, but I had to get back on that horse. There was the only way I was ever going to continue racing and do what I love was to get back on that horse, really push the boat out. I had to bounce back. I had to do. You have to have that bounce back ability. If something happens to you and something really knocks you for six, it doesn't matter whether it's through you've done something wrong at work or whether it's through embarrassment or no matter what it is, you have to bounce back and you have to just come back and give it your all. And do you know what? You can get over it and it makes you a better person and it makes you stronger. And if anything like that happens again, you know how to deal with it. So you have to face your fears. So I got in the boat. And as we're going down, remember, I also have my team there that are relying on me. I'm relying that they've done a good job on the boat. They're relying that I'm going to do a good job driving it. And as we're going down Venice Water, yes, where I crashed. As we're going down Venice Water, it's a very quick boat. We were doing 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour. So we're now 200 in a car. I am not kidding you. I could see me crashing. I could actually feel me crashing. And I know that sounds really weird. And I had to shut that out of my mind and do another few runs with him. And I was terrified. And when I got out of the boat, they all said to me, how was that? How did you feel? And I said, I am so glad to be back in a boat. That was the best feeling. I can't wait for the race. Wonderful. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So I said all this. Inside, I didn't feel that. But you know what? I was glad I got back on the horse and I faced the fears, because then they allowed me to race. So I did the national championships. Me and Giuseppe, in the first race, we came second and we won the second race, and I was on the podium. And it was just like, and all the Italians, because the Italians had been around my bed at Venice Hospital all the time. They'd been in all the time. It was just constant people. And there were so many flowers sent home to my mum and dad's address. My dad said, it's starting to look like a bloody morgue in here. He said, can you tell people to stop sending these flowers? So, you know, for me, it was really emotional. It was on the podium and, you know, everyone's cheering, and it was wonderful. I knew then I was back. And then, do you know what? The next time I went to Italy was to race in a European Championship. So the same race that had taken my life 2 years before. So that same race. And again, I'm the only girl. And again, I'm in a similar boat and we're going racing. And I thought, do you know what? Nothing can ever happen to me as bad as what happened 2 years ago, because it just can't. No one can be that unlucky. So we went out in the European Championships, and the guy I was racing with, navigation's very complicated in racing, and the guy that I was racing with, as we're going to a turn mark, all the other boats, I kid you not, all the other boats go in a completely different direction. They head off to sea. They're going in this direction. He said to me, where are you going? So he said, you are taking me in the wrong direction. I said, I am not taking you in the wrong direction. And then we hit the turn mark, and then we saw the other boats come in from the other way. Every single boat apart from us had gone in the wrong direction. Can you believe that? There's like 19 or 20 boats heading north, and they'd gone in the wrong direction. They'd just made the mistake of following each other. So me and Ricky won the first race, I'm kid you not, by a mile, which meant we didn't need to push the boat as hard in the next race because we were already so far ahead on points and everything else. So one year I crashed in the European Championships and ended on a life support machine. I raced with Ricky 2 years after, and we became European champions. And it's a phenomenal feeling. So to actually win a championship that before then killed you is an accomplishment. And again, all the racers were so happy that I'd won. There was no animosity from even the other teams. You know, the teams think, oh, I wish I'd won. I seriously believe that every single team were rooting for me to win, for me to not only finish fine, not be afraid, but also to actually win, because that did so much for me. I had a great team around me. But remember, it's not just me that wins and Ricky that wins. We have a huge team of people. We have engineers, someone that drives the boat down. We have people that crane boats in, people that look after the boats. So it's not just me and Ricky. It's you've just got the best team working with you. So you're congratulating each other and slapping each other on the back. And oh my God, we're European champions. As long as when the boat gets stripped, you haven't cheated and done something dodgy to your engine. Because remember, all these things get stripped and they check everything. But the whole team had come out on top. It was one of those things that was just a glorious moment. It was the icing on the cake. And I just believe that taking chances are really important, even if it's something that makes you nervous, such as, you know, if I just move off this, such as even now the pandemic that we're in. yeah, are you feeling nervous going out of your house, going to shops, going back to work? You know, at some point you're going to have to make that step. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But you've really got to motivate yourself. Get yourself out there and do it and make a decision. And when you make a decision, don't worry about making that decision. Make it, stick by it, and do it. And do everything that you do to the best of your ability. I've always taken risks and I've always taken chances. And you know what? Some paid off. Some haven't paid off. But most have paid off. And I think it's very important in life that you embrace life and get as much out of it as you can, because we only live once and it's very colourful and life can give us so much. So just enjoy life.
Oh my God. Like I'm going to argue with you. Sarah, look at this, right? So, bold, brave, fearless, push yourself further, take your chances, bounce back ability, born winner, and take your risks. Take chances and take risks. Most people who run a business, and that's the majority of the people in this group here, if you don't take a risk, your business will never achieve anywhere like what it could. And I think you've offered some brilliant advice here. I've got pages in those. Be bold, be first, push yourself, resilience, self-motivation leads to key to success. Take opportunities. You give me loads. Can I ask the first question, and then we'll ask a couple of people to come off mute? Is that okay?
Yeah. Dive in.
All right. You're brilliant, by the way. Totally love this.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. You said you had to do an audition to be a stunt person. What's that? What'd you have to do?
It was for that particular film, even though they came to me and they said, we know you race boats and you drive boats, we need to audition you in a boat. And I said, well, why do you want? I said, but I race them. You're not going to get anyone else. That I'm like the only girl that does it. And they said, we still need to audition you. He was laughing at the time, Simon Crane. So we went to Hawley Lake, you know, the military training lake. We went down to Hawley Lake and we had a big sunseeker. And I went down there and see, this is the real funny bit. So I go down to Hawley Lake. And he saw me drive it, saw me handle it, really lovely, got the job, no problem. So now we're going down there rehearsing. So we rehearsed on Hawley Lake. He said to me, he said, Sarah, he said, how quick does that boat turn? I said, where do you want it to turn to? He said, just full lock. He said, how quick can you just turn that boat full lock? So I thought, well, I don't actually know where full lock is on here. As in, I don't know if full lock just means 90, 180. I don't know where full lock is. So I thought, well, the only way to do it is to just try it, yeah? So I probably should have maybe tried it differently first, but I didn't. I thought I'll take my chances. So I go down the lake at full speed. So at full speed, and I think that boat still went about 45 miles an hour, 45, 50 miles an hour, so it's a quick boat. I turned it in full lock, as in really quickly. I just blasted full lock on, held the wheel. The boat had so much G-force that the back end flew out. So the back end came out of the water, flew out, it dug in, headed the other way, so it does exactly 180 degrees. But as it did 180 degrees, I am now on the floor of the boat. I haven't got a steering wheel or the throttles in my hand, and the boat is heading toward the land where all the stunt people are. I clambered up, I quickly pulled the throttles into reverse to stop it, and then stood up, but I'd slammed into the boat and broke my ribs doing so. And I stood up, and then I obviously pulled the boat in, and all the stuntmen just looked at me, and they said, was that supposed to happen? I said, no, but you asked me to see how far it could turn. I said, and now we all know.
Oh, do you know what? There's a very dangerous freaky side of you that I used to have a Predator. I'm never letting you drive that bad boy.
Oh wow, beautiful.
I know, right? Yeah. It's back in the days when I had cash.
Yeah, beautiful.
Has anybody else got a question before I start talking about you being a fitness champion? Anybody else want to jump off mute? Right, I'm taking them. But everyone, there's over 100 people here. They're all shy as hell. So during lockdown, you've been working out, haven't you? So since your bad influence husband's been away, you've proper looked after yourself. You know, very much like myself.
Yeah.
Dean wouldn't understand this, but I mean, I'm shredding. I've lost a stone. I think eating's cheating. It's the way forward. Just drink your way through this. What have you been doing? And tell us about how fit you've been and you are, because that's really that's exciting.
My husband hasn't been here for 3 months, and I've always said to him that when I met him, I was a world fitness champion. I did the assault courses, fitness tests over in America, and I did those off the back of my accident. So after my accident, I did so much recovery and rehabilitation. I became so fit and so strong, stronger than I'd ever been. I started competing in America. So that's what I mean. Sometimes when you push yourself, you find that you're even better than you were. So I knew I was fit, but I didn't know I was that fit and strong. But sometimes you don't know, you kind of just go with the flow. So, but anyway, I met him 10 years ago. And since I met him, it's all gone downhill for me. He's a former Royal Marine, so he likes a good drink. And it's all gone downhill for me. And I said to him, you know what? I said, you ruined me. I said, I used to look, because we always joke, I said, I used to have the body of a fitness champion. I said, and you've just ruined me. I said, I'm useless now. So I blame him for everything. I love blaming him for things. So while he was not here for 3 months in lockdown, I took it, perfect opportunity. So some people might have just watched Netflix for 3 months, which is brilliant, because if you work hard, you deserve to sit down and just watch Netflix for 3 months. You know, enjoy yourself doing nothing for 3 months. You know, it doesn't matter. But I thought, well, what I will do is I'm going to now train every day, well, like 5 or 6 days a week, because when he's here and I'm with him, we go out and we have nice food, because the food in Spain is so cheap, and beer's so cheap, everything's just so cheap. So I've just spent 3 months locked in the house training, and I just feel fabulous. It's the first time that it's the only time, and the probably only time we will ever have had, that we're forced to stay in the house. So you have to make your own entertainment. So I don't think an opportunity like that will ever kind of come up again. So for me, it was getting back my health and fitness and trying to get where I was. I can't get exactly where I was, because now I'm like 50. You know, back then I was a lot younger. But I've had a wonderful lockdown.
I'll be honest with Sarah, he doesn't sound like a keeper. I mean, I've been him off, mate. I'm ever so brave when I'm over here. Has anybody else got a question for us, Sarah? You know, you've got to take yourself off mute, right?
No one talking to me. I'm all alone.
Go on, I'll jump in. So, as someone who has involved in a lot of fitness myself, like Gary, and has that bit of OCD, what do you do with yourself now in terms of, I know we've had lockdown, what are you going to be doing after? How do you channel that energy into the right spaces now?
Well, it's hard, because as you get older, I'm self-employed and I do bits and pieces here and there, you kind of realise that as a powerboat racer, well, I'm getting older now, it hurts. I don't want to be out in those boats anymore. My poor little bones are brittle. And you do actually start thinking, God, what do I do now? So fortunately, some of the big organisations have now asked me to become race secretary. So now, as race secretary, I now look after all the guys, and also drivers' reps. So if the drivers have a problem, they come to me. And a lot of work I then do at home for things like that. So as race secretary and taking things on, I will spend a lot of time getting in touch with Coast Guards, diving centres, anyone that uses the water, yacht clubs. You know, you let them know where races are and that it's safe, and please don't put your divers in the water. There's all sorts of stuff that goes on. So I've been doing that. So I'm really pleased that I've been given the opportunity to do that. I feel honoured that they've asked me to do that. I do. I feel really honoured that I've been asked to be race secretary. But also, my husband had an idea for me. He told me to start doing podcasts. So during lockdown, I'm not very techie, but during lockdown, he sent me via Amazon a microphone. And then told me to find this podcast thing, and then I've been recording podcasts. I haven't put them out yet, but it's my podcast about health and fitness, about motivation. They're also about mental health, mental fitness, because if you're not, if you are unwell mentally, or you are very stressed mentally, then your physical fitness will suffer. Everything suffers, doesn't it? So fitness isn't just about you here, your body. It's about being fit up here in your mind. So so my podcast's all about that, and it's about the truth of the fitness industry as well, because there's a lot of lies in the fitness industry. So it's about exposing some truths and helping people understand that a lot of people within the fitness industry at the top are actually suffering severe mental health. So believe it or not, it's probably the most unhealthy industry in the world when you team that with steroid abuse and dangerous dieting. So that's where I'm at. I'm channeling everything into that, and you know what, I'm really enjoying writing it. I've never done podcasts and never done this sort of thing, and it's nice to learn something new. So sorry, Dean, that was a very long answer, but that's what I'm doing.
No, that's great, and yeah, I get the mental health side of it as well, because there's always that gain, isn't there, to be the best and look the best, and there's a tiny millimetre of fat or whatever it might be. And
yeah,
I think the psychological issues are big.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, because I think, as you know, everyone uses social media, and I know everyone thinks about social media and they think all the, let's say the bikini models, oh well, they're all using all these programs to give themselves, I don't know, bigger boobs, smaller waist, bigger bums. But what people don't see is, if you look at the fitness side of it, you know, the men that have all the six packs and the women that are muscular, people think, oh, well, they train and they eat. They don't think that they do steroids. You know, the regular guy that, the regular athletic guy, I'm not talking a bodybuilder, but the athletic people. But what people don't realise is these people on the front covers of magazines that have got a nice six-pack, they haven't got that from doing sit-ups and eating clean. They've got that through doing steroids. So even the girls, the bikini girls, are doing steroids. And this is the fascinating thing. So people are trying to emulate the male fitness models getting the six-pack, and it's making them ill. It's making them ill because they're going on dangerous diets. It's making them ill because they're trying to work so hard to achieve that body, and they can't achieve that body. And sometimes they're actually paying that personal trainer online for diet and training plans to look like them. But the missing ingredient is the steroid, and they're not telling people, and without the steroid you can't look like that. So people are becoming mentally ill trying to be what they can never be. So that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, and no one talks about it. Do you know, everyone's afraid of the subject. So I'm not. I'm going to release it into the open because I think it's going to help people. I do think it's going to help people that are trying to be the next male fitness model. I think it's going to help them understand, actually, I can't look like that unless I take steroids. I'm not going to take them, so therefore I'll be happy with who I am.
Sarah, that's brilliant. Dean, exactly my problem, mate. I'm not taking the steroids and I look like this. So leave me alone.
That, to be fair.
Dickhead. Right, Sarah, I know we're running well over here. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. You are phenomenal.
Thank you.
Well, do you know what? Everything you put your mind to, you're absolutely smashing. Congratulations on enjoying your lockdown. Thank you very much for giving us your time today. That's been brilliant. So on behalf of all of us, massive round of applause, and we're sending love, and look after yourself. Hopefully sometime we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Go hard, go fast. Woo!
Bye. 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 Bye.